This is Business Banter by the Basin. I'm Shani Taylor, Global Coach of the Year, as presented by the Duchess of York.
And I'm George Mattar. I'm CEO of Lab Group Australia. I'm 24 years old, and we have a group of 5 hair and beauty brands around the country.
Let's talk about the end, George.
The beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end. So this is take 2, attempt number 2 of this podcast, right? So we met a month ago. And we sat down and we thought that we would be brilliant at this, because how this actually came about.
I thought I was ready to start doing the news.
Yeah, I thought
I was Channel 9, Hugo Pitt Overton. This is me. Welcome to Channel 9.
All right. I thought I'm going to be 2-time Grammy nominee, Grammy Award winner.
For music, by the way. Grammys are fully for music.
Oscar Award
winner. Oscar nominee. Angelina Jolie. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And the reason we thought that was because how this all came about was you obviously do my hair, which is amazing. And
look at it, we're about to do it after this.
Yeah, we should be. The regrowth is getting done after we finish this.
So these podcast shoots, it's the podcast shoot and then her appointment. This is her monthly appointment.
This is how that works.
This is how that happens.
So this all came about because I started coming here getting my hair done, and we had an instant connection, didn't we?
We did. Connection's a word. Psychological breakdown. That's the more around what we do.
Soulmates, twin flames.
Yeah, ADHD riddled,
trauma therapy,
psychiatric
all of those things.
Kind of.
Right? It was like instantly. Yeah. You know when you're in business and you get a client, and a lot of the time it takes people a long time to warm up. Right, whereas instantly we were like, let's just...
comes in like a tornado.
Whereas I come in like a tornado.
Cyclone.
You're the cyclone. And in the first appointment, we were just like, got real.
Yeah. I think that's what worked for the best for the both of us, was that we were just so real with each other. That's what made it click for me, because I was just like, wow, I can actually have a real conversation with this person and not
have to put on airs and graces and just tell it like it is. And we were cracking up. And then after a few times, we were like, hang on a minute. We cannot hold back this brilliance from the world.
Was it you or me that said we should just prop the phone up during our appointment?
I think it was
just
you.
Record it? It
was you. It was definitely
just for a laugh. And then someone turns around and goes, let's make this a business.
Yeah, let's actually do that.
You heard one thing and you went,
let's monetize this. Everything's about monetization. So here's what happened. Right. So we were like, oh, let's give this brilliance to the world. So 4 weeks ago, we sit.
No one asked for it.
No. Hey.
You'll get it.
So 4 weeks ago, we sit down and we think that we're just going to ad-lib it because we're ADHD.
We talk shit for 3 hours.
We talk shit for 3 hours at a hair appointment, and we're hilarious. So surely the magic is just going to flow. The magic did not flow.
Look, there's no.
It was a complete dog's breakfast, as they say here in Australia.
Yeah, or as I like to say, there was less flow than a 70-year-old man with prostate problems. Like, I listened to it, and you could, because I knew what we were talking about, you could hear the cuts, and I was like, oh.
It was just a
Shani you couldn't hear Shani. It was basically the George show.
Yeah, it was basically the George show. I was like off in Siberia or something in terms of the sound. Also, too, what we found...
It was remote.
And what was really funny was, so we did all these recordings that were ad-libbed and kind of went off in multiple places. And then our podcast guy, Tony, who's actually one of my clients, and by the way, if you're looking to do a podcast, you need to speak with Tony. There you go. There's a plug for you, guys.
Right. Time.
But so Tony puts together the edits, and then I'm actually in South Africa at this stage, and we're all having a group chat.
We need to play those recordings you said.
Maybe
it sounded like you were dragging your foot across the floor. So you had your mouth back here.
Yeah. So I'm in South Africa at this stage. We're all group chatting in the WhatsApp. Tony sends through an edited version of a potential episode, and I was like,
it was the first episode.
Yeah, it was and I was like, we've got to cut this shit out. We've got to shut this shit down. It is not.
Yeah.
It cannot go out into the world.
I was listening to it, and I was like, why does it actually sound like you're underwater? And I had the microphone in my mouth.
Yes.
Screaming into it. I clipped it to the back of my throat.
It was right up in there.
It was.
Now, by the way, the sound was the least of concerns for me, even though the sound was bad. there was no structure, there was no point, there was no message, there was no destination. It was a mess.
Yeah, it was. You know why though? Because we had said we were going to write notes, and then it was really.
And then we did it.
I had scribbled like 4 points that had like randomly popped in my mind on a note,
Yeah.
and then I went, you know what? Maybe we should have something to talk about. Like we thought it was just going to be a conversation like usual, but then we realized our conversations go off. They wind everything for about 3 hours into nothingness.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And people don't want to hear that.
not that people don't want to hear that. I don't think people will follow.
Right.
I don't think. I think you have to be a very specific kind of person with a very specific type of ADHD.
And also, people don't have 3 hours to listen to us, like, get to the point. So,
Gab garbage.
So we decided to shut it down, even though we'd already invested money, already invested time, and
As you do in business.
As you do in business. And we went back to the drawing board. And so then
This is the drawing board.
This is the drawing board. For those of you listening that can't see, this is we're holding up in our hands a ream of paper of us now being prepared.
Yeah.
Of us now being prepared. And so what happened was then I came in a few weeks ago to get a touch up on my hair. And once again, we were brilliant. And we were hilarious.
And I was like, how does this not translate when the cameras are on?
Right. And then I went home and I reverse engineered the magic into a structure.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of businesses don't do, where they're like something goes and fails and it's like, how about
and then they either give up or they try and push.
Make it work.
Yeah.
I'm like, just hold on. Before it costs you actually a lot of money.
Right.
Pull back. Start again. Start from scratch. Like assess where you've been and assess what's happened. And from there make a now educated decision moving forward.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of the reason, so there's a couple of things that happen here, right? People have a perceived failure, whether they make an investment in their business or whether they take on a new client who ends up not being very aligned at all,
Yes.
or they engage with a service for their business that costs them money, and immediately or shortly thereafter they realize that actually this was a bad idea, it's not aligned, it's a misaligned client, or the service isn't what I had hoped for. And what happens is I find that people find it really difficult to own that because they go, oh, it must mean something bad about me, I'm a failure. And so then they look at the cost rather than the cost not to move on.
Yes. Sorry. Go.
No, and the cost to keep going with something
a lot greater
is a lot greater than cut, run, and restart.
Well, it's like I used to work for someone who always said to me, "Build it, and they will come."
Oh
right?
God!
And there is a very small portion of that I believe in, and I say very small, I mean like 10%. The other 90% is like, no. Well, there is an element of planning that's involved. Like, for example, best example actually, I opened a salon in Elwood, right? Second salon. We tried it out, trialed it out. The way we did it was I was renting a chair in another salon just to kind of see what the clientele was like. When I opened up here, I had heaps of clients from my salon in Broadway.
Right.
So my previous salon in Broadway. So when I opened up here, I started off with a bang. But the old salon was not working. I was spending a lot of money on the rent, on the having staff there, on me not being here where I make the most money.
Yeah.
And I went, you know what? The plan was to go through Christmas and do Christmas there. And I just started to realize after I think it was about 3 months, I went, you know what? I looked at the numbers and I went, it's just not working. It's pretty simple. It's not working. And everyone had known about it. All my clients knew, my friends, family, everyone knew that I had 2 salons by this stage. And I went, you know what? Just close it down. I literally made a decision like within 24 hours and I went, this is going. And I shut it down the next day.
The end.
But with that being said, the plan wasn't to shut it down completely and never show up there again. I will still open a second salon, but I just decided that it's just not working, and that's okay.
Right. And you would have had to have dealt with some stuff possibly, and if not you, then other people will have, around the fact of like, oh my God, my friends and family are going to think that I'm a failure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I say it all the time. I'm like, yeah, no, I shut it down, and they go, oh, what? It just wasn't working. It didn't work with staffing. Also, it's very hard to find staff right now.
Yeah.
It's just the industry is really hard to find staff in, all that kind of stuff. We're chatting about staffing. That's another story.
That's another podcast.
Another episode. but it was all these issues that just led to it all over not working and not being feasible right now. Does that mean it's not feasible ever? No, I will still do it again, but just not today.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay to do that. It's okay to say to people, yeah, no, it just didn't work.
Yeah, and here's the thing about leadership, because if you're in business, whether you see yourself as a leader or not, you are.
100%.
And this is the thing about leadership, right? It's like you have to, it's okay to own where you made a decision that now no longer is going to work for you. Take your lessons and then go communicate what you've learned about that to help others, whether it's your staff, your clients.
So let's show you what we're doing.
No, that's right. I know.
This is it.
Right? Whereas so many people want to hide in shame, think that they've failed.
Never mention it.
Never mention it,
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it, or will continue to pursue it. It's kind of like being in a bad relationship. So many people stay in crappy relationships. You want to open up? No, not on this episode because we're almost done. But
No, that's right.
so
Relationship therapy by the best.
it's so many people push something for far too long beyond when they should have pushed it, and then it ends up costing more money, more time, more energy, more self-worth. And so
you actually feel worse by the end of it.
you feel worse by the end of it. So I think the message is really clear here about, so here we are with a podcast, a structure that we're really happy with, that already has gone 10 times better than the last time.
Within 5 minutes, yeah.
Within 5 minutes. And so the point is, don't be scared to end something, because every time you do, you rebuild something far more aligned, far better, and, in my world, going to make you a whole lot more money.
Yeah. That's pretty much the crux of it. That's the core of it, essentially.
The end.
The end. And Shani, where can they find you?
Insta or Facebook at Shani Taylor Official with the blue tick. And what about you?
You can find me on Instagram at George Mattar Official. That's Mattar, and you can find all our other links in the show notes.